Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to another exciting CodeHS webinar. This one today is going to be awesome, teaching cybersecurity. Welcome, welcome. Lots of familiar names. I see some new people. Hello, hello. Hello, Kim. We will wait just a minute. While we're waiting, I am going to put the link to the slides in the chat for you if you would like them. And there we go. Hi, Roger. Hi, Kent. Young one, Vesselin, hello. Oh, Roger has a question. Hi, Roger. So if you have a question, feel free to type it in the Q&A at the bottom. You'll see at the bottom of your screen, it says Q&A. You can ask us a question there, or you could type your question in the chat. If the chat gets too crazy, sometimes your question might be lost in there. So if you're really wanting to make sure we see that question, I think my advice would be to put it in the Q&A. We do have a lot of people registered for this webinar today, so our chat might get filled up pretty quickly. Welcome, welcome. All right. Joe, if you want to go to the next slide for me.
Hold on. There we go.
All right, so I will introduce myself. My name is Robin Leslie. I'm a professional development specialist with CodeHS, and I have been with the company for a little over a year. Before that, I taught computer science, and I used CodeHS in my classroom for 15 years. And we have Joe Thompson with us today. Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm just finished my 5th year at McDonough School teaching CS. I've been teaching CS for 10 years, and I haven't been using it for 15 like you, Robin, but I consider myself to be one of the longer users of CodeHS. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And then if you want to go to the next slide. So this is our agenda for today. I'll go ahead and I'll put the slide link. There you go. Slide link is in the chat again. And we are set for 2 hours. We'll see how it goes. If we have lots of questions and lots of engagement, we might hit that 2-hour mark. If not, you may get out of here a little bit early. We will see how it goes. If you could go to the next slide. All right, so this is what I was mentioning at the start. We do have a couple of places for you to interact with us. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see you have a chat, and then you'll see you have a Q&A button. So the chat button, we would love for you guys to engage with each other and chat in the chat area. But if you have a question for us, or if you have a question for Joe, I think the best place for you to put that would probably be in the Q&A today. And sometimes in the Q&A, we'll just type the answer back to you. And sometimes in the Q&A, we will see that it's a question for Joe, and we will let Joe know that he has a question, and then he will answer it live for you. So if you have any questions, go ahead and click the Q&A and type your question in. And then if you could go to the next slide. So if you are new to CodeHS, and I did see that we have some people who are new or first-time users, I'm going to put this link in the chat for you. And if you click on that link, it says sign up for a free account. You can get a free account at CodeHS, a free teacher account. And so we do verify that everyone is a teacher who wants the teacher account. That way we make sure we don't give all of the solutions to students who say that they are teachers. So, but for today, you can definitely sign up for that account. And once it gets verified, you will see all of the teacher resources populate for you. And then if you could go to the next slide. So here is our certificate of completion, or what you would call the attendance link. And I'm going to drop that in the chat for you. And this link Nothing fancy will happen when you click on it, but you will get a little message that says, "Thank you for attending." And you will get an email shortly thereafter just saying that you attended this 2-hour event. The one thing you need to know about the attendance link is that you do need to be signed in to your CodeHS account in order for the attendance link to work for you and send you the certificate. So if you don't have an account yet, go ahead and sign up for an account, and then you can click the attendance link. And we will give you that attendance link later on near the end of the webinar, just in case you need to take some time right now signing up for your account, and you can click that attendance link later on. And then if you want to go to the next slide. So just a little bit about CodeHS for our new people. We are a comprehensive platform, which means that we try to make sure that we have everything teachers need to be able to be successful teaching computer science. We are K-12 now, web-based curriculum, which means that for almost all courses, you do not need to download anything onto your computer, that everything should be up and online on the web for you. And then obviously you're here today, so you can see that we do have professional development that we include and a plethora of teacher tools and resources to help you throughout the year. And then if you could go to the next slide. And then some of the things that we have, instant feedback. We have extensive grading and tracking tools for teachers, which are also very helpful as well. And then if you could go to the next slide. Awesome. All right, so that is my spiel. I will continue to put links in the chat as we need them. And again, if you have any questions for Joe, or you have any just general CodeHS questions, you could type those into the Q&A. And thanks for coming. Go ahead, Joe.
Great. It's great to be here, and thank you for that introduction, Robin, and glad to have you with us also, Leanne. CodeHS has basically made me as a teacher. It's when I first started, I was given a course called computers, and the students were really not interested in the material that was there, and we started looking around for something that they would be interested in, and stumbled across CodeHS, and it sort of was a fantastic thing for them to see, and I've sort of made my career off the energy that CodeHS has put into my students, and certainly followed the several iterations of the CodeHS cyber course, and I think that this CodeHS cyber course, particularly the newest one, should be an important part of your toolkit in teaching this very important discipline to high school students. And when I was putting together this presentation, I kept thinking about the students that I've had in the last couple of years at McDonough teaching cyber. And you're looking at 6 NC WIT, National Center for Women in Technology award winners from this year. All 6 of these guys are cyber practitioners. 2 of them are currently employed, one's at Mantech and the other's at Lockheed Martin, and they have yet to start their first day of college. I could say I could go on and on about all 6 of these guys, but what your job is going to be as teachers is to point these guys in the right direction and do everything you can to encourage them. And they are going to do great things in this field, and they're going to do great things with their cyber skills that you're encouraging them to get. All of you educators are used to getting appreciative notes from students and families, and they're counting on you. These students are and their families are counting on you to push them in directions that they wouldn't otherwise have been pushed into. And you know that the best source of student energy is somewhere inside them, and you're always looking for ways to get them excited about things, and they have so much energy that if you can just find the right way to get them going, they will apply those reserves of energy and do amazing things. And so I encourage you to keep looking at these notes that you're getting from your students as you go forward as cyber educators. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story in the hopes that it will it will give you some confidence, because this cyber is sort of a new field, and a lot of people like me are sort of diving into it, and it's very tough when you're starting out to feel like, you know, how am I ever going to master this? And you're not ever going to master it, but you're going to, with the help of CodeHS. One of the great things about CodeHS is you'll be able to guide students to help them feel like this is something that's for them. So I started out a long time ago as a computer break fix guy, and I had a business with a truck, and you know, just fixed people's computers and their networks, and got referrals. And my customers liked me. And then one of my customers, who happened to have a string of dental offices in the state, said that I needed to go work for a school because the school needed some IT help. So I went to work there as an IT guy for 5 years. I did some coaching. I really enjoyed working with kids. I took some teaching classes at community college, but I wasn't sure I would ever be able to make it into the classroom. So classroom teaching was sort of a dream for me, and didn't really expect that it would happen. And then it happened. I was hired by another school to be IT director. And with that job came a one class called computers. And the students really weren't that interested in the curriculum of that particular class. And I know all you educators know that look when you have students that are not engaged. And I was seeing a lot of that, and sort of scratching my head. And I said, why don't we try some programming? And we actually tried a couple of different ways to learn programming, and not really making a lot of headway. And then we hit CodeHS, and it was a hit right from the beginning. One of the reasons they liked it was that they didn't all have to be exactly in the same spot. They could go, the ones who wanted to go faster could go faster. The other ones could accrue mastery, and they were still feeling like they were moving, but they didn't have to be the fastest guy or go at any particular pace. And they also liked the collaboration. I mean, it was sort of everybody against the platform, more or less. I don't know, really, you know, solving problems is really kind of what CodeHS is all about. And you learn lessons on the platform, and then you use those lessons to solve things and move forward. And my students just loved this, and they loved it so much that they were doing CodeHS in other classes and getting in trouble for doing CodeHS in their English classes and other places. I can only describe the experience as this coding sort of blew up at the school. It's just everybody was taking part in it, and it was really something. So of course the school, you know, levered this and found that, hey, this is kind of an angle for us as a school. And there's a couple of my early students there doing CodeHS in a study hall. And then in spring 2015, we were testing AP Java course, and Jeremy Keeshan came out in his pink CodeHS mobile, and it was nuts. It was a crazy day. It was really exciting. I really was super happy that Jeremy included us in his itinerary. And students went running out to his car. It was just an amazing moment. They coded him into the school using JavaScript commands on the road. And there's a picture of some of my students with Jeremy in front of the pink car. There's Carol. This was quite a day. But we had a lot of work to do after that. I don't have a lot of teaching training, and my classroom management skills are not the world's greatest, but I run a half decent classroom. And then the assistant head wandered into my classroom, as I'm sure some of you have had this experience. And I was sort of voluntold that I was going to be teaching AP Java the next year. And I'd never written any Java code. I was a little bit apprehensive. And we adopted the first CodeHS AP Java course, and one of my students, Garrett, got a 4, which was amazing. And the new CodeHS Java course has been great. And then I met a fantastic teacher at the CSTA convention in San Diego, named Mary Para from Bridgeport Public Schools, and she talked to me about what it was like to teach a different set of students than the ones I was facing. And she was great, and I'm sure there are people on this call right now who are looking at challenges that are far beyond the ones any that I have ever faced. And I'm sure that this is something for all of your students. And I know that there are students of yours out there who are going to light up with cyber, and they're going to find it really fascinating and interesting. And you're going to change lives by exposing your students to cyber using CodeHS. I had a nice relationship with a lab at a college, at Dartmouth College. They actually invited us to go visit them, and we had a couple of trips up there. Moved up to Connecticut in 2017 to teach at a boarding school. And I got out, that was the end of me in the IT business. I was pure teacher, which I couldn't believe I was so happy to just be teaching. And then with CodeHS for the second time, I saw the coding and just kind of blow up there, and added mobile app class, had 2 sections of AP Java. And I became aware that, cyber was coming on, and I didn't really do anything with cyber at Avon, but I knew that there was a competition coming at Lockheed Martin called CyberQuest, and I started thinking that in the future I would want to teach cyber. There's my old classroom. It was a converted water tower. It was a really interesting little classroom. Let's keep going here. We did another visit to this Dartmouth DALI lab, and one of the things you guys can all get your students excited about, particularly with cyber actually, is cyber is still considered primarily a college sort of pursuit. Most of the clubs that are out there are college clubs. The teams that you face in cyber competitions are likely to be college teams. And high school students are really interested in anything that sort of smacks of college level work. They want to see more about what that's like, and even further into their future. Let's see. My dad was in Maryland. He got sick. I had to move back to Maryland, and I found a great job at McDonough with an incredibly supportive boss who was all on board when I told her how great CodeHS was. And actually, the first year we had seat licenses, and then the second year we went to a silver site license. If we've got any district administrators on this call, or any people who are considering sort of school-wide adoption of CodeHS, or maybe have 1 or 2 classes running CodeHS now, I would strongly urge you to talk to your CodeHS people about getting a silver site license, which allows you to have as many sections of CodeHS as you want. And then once you have one of those, the whole challenge is to get as many people and as many teachers using CodeHS as possible. And if you can get more than 1 teacher and several sections going, you save an awful lot of money by doing a silver site license. So I'll leave that for the CodeHS people to follow up with, but I'm very happy that we did a silver site license for the last 3 years. Because we're near Baltimore, we had access to some government agencies that a lot of you guys aren't close enough to do it, but I've had some people do work studies at government agencies. I've had people do internships. My first Lockheed Martin intern was up in Connecticut. I had a guy go to work at Sikorsky, and that was incredible. And now I've had 7 students do internships. You guys all know that cybersecurity has, for all practical purposes, a 0 unemployment rate. There are many, many empty seats out there in cyber. And so among the other things you're doing is helping your students actually find, nice jobs when they get out of college. The companies that are looking for cyber people are all looking for people who have, for the most part, have some college too. So they're not, this isn't a trade school situation, but basically cyber people are really in demand, and you'll have when you encourage your students to do cyber, they will be getting nice paid work starting at least partway through their college careers. Let's keep going. So my first cyber class was my first year at McDonough, and I had 5 students in there. It was the beginning of the pandemic. It was spring semester of the beginning of the pandemic. And well, actually before that, in the fall of that year, I took a team to Lockheed Martin CyberQuest. And that was a real eye opener, because of the 5 people on my team, we had 3 interviews and 2 internships. So that was a pretty nice ratio there. And that was when I sort of really started to see that there are just tremendous career opportunities for students who have some cyber interest or experience. And then I also had a work study hire for the government who then was admitted to Yale. We were looking at different types of hacking of websites, and we were introduced the topic of robots.txt. And I told my students absolutely do not hack the McDonough website. And one of them went right ahead and looked at robots.txt on the McDonough website. And about a minute later, my phone rang in my classroom, and the director of risk management at our school had us all march up to his office, and he wanted to find out what was going on. But so at some point, some of you may have some interesting discussions with school administrators or staff about what's going on in your classroom. And if you just let them know what you're doing and help your students understand that they need to be ethical about what they're doing, it will be a big help. So we that first class I had, we adopted CTF Learn also, and started doing getting points on CTF Learn, which I'll be showing you guys a little later in this presentation. And that was a great way to get through the pandemic. I've had a number of students win the NSA work study. I've had NC WIT prizes from my students. I've had good college admissions. And again, this sounds like me bragging, but I'm just trying to communicate to you guys what's possible and how you could expect to have some success in a lot of different ways by finding your path of teaching cyber. And because cyber is such a opportunity-rich field that your students are gonna be in demand, and they're gonna do amazing things. There's a scholarship at a government agency that basically provides $30,000 a year for college and a job when you graduate. I've had 3 people win that. I've got a student at Mantech now. I've had a number of them at Lockheed Martin. I've got one hired by the Baltimore Police Department. KCI, which is a huge construction firm, I think they're very likely to get the contract to rebuild the Key Bridge. Cisco, got a guy out at Cisco, and it's just, I'm very, very proud, in case you can't tell, of all my students and what they've gone on to do. When you start teaching cyber, I think it's an okay thing to tell your students that, they're on a relatively short road, short compared to, say, medicine or law. That they're gonna come at they're gonna be looking at internship offers, as quickly as a year or 2 after they begin studying cyber. And I would suggest that they need to prepare a resume, and you can include that in your cyber teaching. A simple or short resume is better than listing everything from the 8th grade or whatever on contact info, interests, and achievements. And they can put certs in there, and I'll be talking a little more about certs going on in this presentation. There's a site that Lockheed Martin looks at tallo.com. It's kind of a LinkedIn for high school students. I would tell every student you've got in every class you have to get on Tallo and put a profile of themselves on there. And I would also have them, in the case of cyber, you might as well make them aware that clearances are going to be something that they should be aiming at down the road, and they want to make sure that they don't get things like high school suspension, which will stop you from getting a security clearance. They need to just be aware of the need or the utility of a security clearance. So watch your social media and stuff like that. Let's see. What are these certifications? Well, I'm pretty big on certs, and believe it or not, CodeHS offers certifications. They have a cyber certification. I have a student that listed his CodeHS cyber certification on his resume, and he was told eventually, when he did get the internship, that was a part of the decision-making process, and that actually the CodeHS cyber certification helped. There are programming certs like the Oracle 811, Network Plus. Any networking certification like A+ or Network Plus would be a great certification to have your students try for. And these are sort of outside of what you would think of as a school assessment. Certs sort of they feel a little bit like a trade school kind of thing, but what they do in the world of IT and in the world of cyber is they shorten those technical interviews down. So somebody walks in and they have CompTIA Security Plus. They kind of go into a small group of people that would get further along. And so there are ways that you in teaching there are ways that you can foster a sort of certification culture, and that you can celebrate the achievements of your students with certs. And one of them is to make something that I call, for a lack of a better term, the Hall of Fame, which is just a big piece of Post-it note that's sort of poster size on the wall. And when somebody does something worth celebrating, you note it on there. All right, let's go forward. What am I doing here? Let's go forward from this slide. I would say, I mean, I suffer from something called imposter syndrome, which is a lot of common in IT, and you need to be confident in moving forward and in insisting that you belong there in front of your students or alongside your students, and you're helping them towards their dreams. And your dreams for them are a huge contributing factor to their success. Let's go forward. Here we go. Now let's see if we can watch this video.
And as we leave the moon, we leave as we came, and God willing, as we shall return.
I don't think we have
You probably
audio,
dreamed
Joe.
of this.
Sorry, hello?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm coming.
Okay.
You probably replayed this moment 1,000 times.
Four wheels off the ground air.
You probably imagined the awe-inspiring, indescribable rush of the ride. You probably celebrated the miraculous, cheered the momentous, and mourned the shocking. You probably still dream of what could be. We did. We do. And while many thought we were through, no. We've been learning, we've been building, we've been training. And now, it's time. Because the next frontier is not just for the next generation. It's for this generation. It's for me, and it's for you. For everything we still dream about. We go as Artemis.
Okay, let's see if I can move this slide forward. There we go. All right, I'm going to revisit this about what I use. I've used the CodeHS courses. I'm excited about the newest ones. I also use Raspberry Pis, which are really nice devices that run on Linux. Most of you know what those are. CTFs we're going to get into a little deeper in this presentation, which also have a learning platform themselves sometimes, and also competitions. Other Linux platforms where you can run Linux. If you have a Mac, you can open a Linux window in your utilities. You can create a virtual machine. BeagleBone Black's a somewhat overlooked and very cheap credit card sized device. Students are going to find things to help each other with, particularly in ways of getting through these CTFs, which you need to pay attention to, because they're going to come up with tools that you weren't aware of. Visiting any contact you can have with professionals in this field is super well helpful, and it's helped me. And those people are always going to encourage you. The people at the places that want to employ your students are going to be giving you a lot of encouragement. The first cyber competition, a good one to go to, which is an online one, is here in this link. They usually run one in the fall and they run one in the spring. They happen to be based out of Westminster, Maryland, but we've seen schools from all over the world at these competitions. And the level of CTF questions is appropriate for high school students. So this is one I strongly recommend you think about getting involved in. This on this slide, I want to make a point about how big the cyber field is, because I don't want any of you guys to get overwhelmed or feel like you can never be a big cyber expert, because there's so much to it. It's such a vast field. And when you look at even the high school textbooks that have been written, there are 25 chapters, lots of different subfields. So don't hesitate to kind of tell your students how big the field is and how many different disciplines can get involved in it, but also say, look, we're going to pick a few things and try to go a little bit deeper. We don't want to just go through the whole year and scratch the surface at a depth of half an inch on every subfield. And that's true for me too. And so typically I've worked hardest on cryptography, networking, including Linux and the powerful tools Linux offers for networking, IoT devices, which are often weak spots in cyber, SQL hacking, and mobile devices. And then I also encourage students, and we do have times when we talk about particular attacks instead of just a sort of subfield. We talk about actual stories of how an attack went, SCADA hacking, ransomware, and who the bad guys are. At this one moment, I would point out that there's a sort of false feeling that's out there in cyber that the bad guys are sort of one guy in his basement, and nothing could be further from the truth. That you're actually, with cyber, you're looking to protect networks from very often very highly organized, highly paid nation state actors, Iran, Russian stuff, North Korea. So don't hide that from your students, that you're sometimes up against some big guys. You're going to have to explain to them why and how cyber is important. Basically, the way I tell the high school students that cyber is important is that we took a civilization that was not online and moved everything online, banking, everything. We just said, hey, we're going to all put this online because it's going to make everything so much easier and better. And this, at the beginning, the idea that it needed to be secured was sort of an afterthought. And they're going to have to understand a little bit about how networks work, what's a packet, how do packets move around, and everything in cyber will sort of lead to something else. So the discussion of packets will take you pretty quickly into the OSI model. I don't see how you get too much of anywhere in cyber without having an idea about encryption and cryptography. Everything that's online has to be encrypted in some way. And, the more important it is, the more important encryption methods and cryptography become. How do we start with encryption and cryptography? We start with the older encryption systems and the Caesar cipher and transposition ciphers. And then we slowly work to newer ones. And, it would not be unusual to spend most of a semester or a year not reaching current encryption standards, but you need to build that base in your students. And I think you'll be doing them a favor if you spend considerable time playing around with encryption and cryptography. And then finally, this has mainly come from the employers and the agencies that I've spoken to. They love people who are comfortable with Linux, right? And so your students are coming to you and they're starting without any understanding of Linux. They're used to working in either a Mac or a Windows system. And they have no idea why anybody would just open up a terminal window and start typing in commands. But the powerful tools that are available on Linux, the fact that Linux can run fairly simple systems, that Linux is the core of a lot of IoT machines, Linux is kind of in there, is something that's very powerful in the practice of cybersecurity. And you might as well start advocating for that right away. So Robin, I think this is a good place to take a little break and maybe ask if there's some questions out there before we go to the next part of the program.
Sure. If anybody has any questions for Joe, feel free to type them into the chat or into the Q&A, and we can make sure that we get those answered. I know he's giving a lot of great information, and he's going to be going into more detail on some other things that he does in his classroom, and also a little bit of information about our fundamentals of cybersecurity course and the pathway that we have for cybersecurity. But if you have any questions, feel free to put those in and we will let him know.
And we'll have some other moments in this when we get a chance to ask questions and respond also. So Robin, shall I dive to the next section?
Sure. Oh, you do have a question though. So I saw you suggested the Network Plus cert. Would you
Yep.
say that would be more appropriate for high school students versus the Security Plus?
Network Plus is, I look at that as a component of Security Plus. So Security Plus is a nice ultimate goal. It's a pretty hard one. And I would go for Network Plus first. So that's a great question. And I would say to your student who is asking about certs, get the CodeHS Cyber cert and then start thinking about the Network Plus cert after that. And that will be very helpful in getting Security Plus. Was that a helpful answer, Robin?
That was perfect. Thank you.
I am going to talk some more about how we can sort of build a culture of certs in our classroom, because I think you're really doing your students a favor by encouraging them to go after. And they're coming to you at the start of their exposure to you thinking that high school and education in general is about getting grades and working on your grade point average. And so they're not really going to grasp what these, and their families may or may not grasp what these certs are all about. But typically a cert boils down to one exam and you get asked a whole bunch of multiple choice questions. And if you get 70% of them right, you have the cert and you're considered to have a certain amount of fundamental knowledge in that field. And certs, certainly in IT in general, certs are held in pretty high regard because they do shorten down technical interviews. And no time like teaching cyber to get your students going on the idea that they should be pursuing certs, and that at some point in their future they would want to be walking around with a CompTIA Security Plus cert, or one of the CCA, one of the other certs that are out there. And I'll leave it to you guys to do research on the type of certs. But I'll also say that CodeHS, with the combination of badges and the actual certs that CodeHS offers, is a great first step and a great way to sort of condition your students to think about getting certs and piling up the certs. And they should be thinking about getting those. How are we doing, Robin? Should I dive to the next section, or?
Yeah, I think we are good if you want to keep going.
All right, let's do a little more work here, and then maybe at the end of this next section, we'll take a short break. Hang on.
Awesome.
All right, so CodeHS has, from humble beginnings, architected up basically a whole cybersecurity pathway. And I have opinions on this, and I think but it's nice that they have this offering. I do like the idea of a pathway where you could have students and their families who think, I really want my student to be doing cyber. They could literally take classes in each of their years of high school, and these would all be building on their cyber skills. And the first one that I think all students should have some web design. They should have an idea of how a website works. How does information get transmitted to and from a website? And it's great to get a sense of what HTTP and CSS do. What are the frameworks that are out there, like Bootstrap, which basically writes the CSS for you? And so I think a little bit of web design for a cyber person is super helpful. So CodeHS offers that course. And then they also have fundamentals of cybersecurity, which they have put in here as a 10th grade course. That doesn't necessarily have to be taught just in 10th grade. It could be taught earlier, it could be taught later. And then we have this AP Computer Science Principles Cybersecurity course, which is very helpful. And then finally, they have stuck here as a 12th grade course, Advanced Cybersecurity. So keeping in mind that my success as an educator has come from the gamification and the fact that students can move to another level whenever they're ready. You certainly don't want to do anything that holds your students back, but rather you want them to feel like when they're ready to do more, there's plenty more for them to learn. And whether it's CodeHS courses, whether it's learning the tools in CTF Learn, whether it's competing in more competitions, you always want to be ready, to help students continue, keep going, keep putting that next foot in front of the other. And you're going to have to figure out exactly what sort of rhythm this takes. I would say if you are graduating a student from high school and they've had even as little as 1 year of focused cybersecurity courses, they are miles ahead of the vast majority of high school students. There was once a dream that every high school student in America would get some programming. That hasn't worked out really. Again, I think your students, cybersecurity is typically a college student type of thing. So if you can find a way to get cyber into your high school curriculum, you've really done something, and don't feel like you're missing out if you're only able to have 1 year of cyber for your high school students. Most of the students that I've taught cyber I've only been able to give them cyber for 1 year or even just one semester. So this is a beautiful pathway that CodeHS has created, but it's more than most of you will be able to have happen in your school, and don't feel like you're missing out, or that somehow your students won't be getting enough if they're not doing 4 years of this. So it's a nice path, Robin. I really do like the pathway here. So let's talk a little bit about the fundamentals of cybersecurity course, which is a great place to start. And one thing about cyber is there's quite a bit of jargon in it, and it's good to face that thing kind of head on, and say, there's no way around learning some of these terms, because you're going to have to exchange ideas with people, and you're going to have to talk a common language. So you're going to need to learn some of the jargon. You're going to have to learn how big a field cybersecurity is. You're going to have to learn some networking. You're going to have to learn some encryption and cryptography, and you're going to have to understand the sort of whys of why all this stuff is important. And then we have the AP Computer Science Principles course in cybersecurity, which National Science Foundation had a lot to do with this course. There's some cybersecurity applications written in JavaScript, and this is an exciting course that you should take a look at and think about it. In CodeHS, you have syllabuses available. You can do sample lessons. There's lots of access to these courses, and please take a look at these courses. I don't know how many of you know that it's very easy to drop a module from particular courses into your course, and please don't hesitate to move lessons around, or take lessons from a particular course that you like and use them in another course. So Robin, I took about 5 minutes there to talk about the CodeHS courses. How was that? Or that was the pathway, right?
Yeah, that was the pathway. We'll get a little bit more into some of the details of the fundamentals of cybersecurity course. But did you want to take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll...
Let's do that. Let's give everybody a breather here, and they may also think up some questions while we're on this break, or talk to each other. So let's take 4 minutes or so, and we'll be back at 49.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, Robin, should we crank it back up?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm excited about the next couple of bits of this program. I'm excited to show you guys CTF Learn and Pico CTF, and I want to keep rolling so we get to those. You have seen that CodeHS provides badges for some of your students when they achieve certain levels or complete various exercises. And I have found that badges are really nice things for my students. They actually like those, and I've printed them out and given them to students with my signature on the bottom. The badges are a tool for you to use, and you can use a badge to make a big deal out of just about anything you feel like doing. And so I recommend you do that, and that the students start to feel like, obtaining a badge is kind of a good, something to really go for. In one of my courses, I just made badge up if the student gets 30% through the course. There's lots of ways for you to do that. And a badge could be a cert. So you could print out, and there are ways for you to do this, printing out a badge, and it shows what they did to get this badge. They completed a quiz, they completed an exercise, and they watched a video. So I'm pretty big on badges in CodeHS. I even made up a badge for people who got logged in and got started, and like awarding that one. 50% complete is a nice badge to have. You can have badges for more general qualities that your students bring to your class. And you see some students who are really skilled at working in teams or tying teams together. I look at collaboration as an important skill, and I think you should recognize that. And you as a teacher are going to know, the kinds of things you value in your students, and you can come up with some badges for that. You can even have badges for persistence, or, somebody who's just will not quit on a problem. So you can think about what badges you might make. And next, I want to bring the idea of a Hall of Fame, because it's really helped me, and I think it will help all of you guys. Particularly, we're in cybersecurity, and it's tough to figure out what is progress. How do we have something to hang our hats on? And a Hall of Fame can be a great way to do that. Anything notable that a student does, completing a difficult exercise on CodeHS, completing a module of CodeHS, solving a CTF problem that gets a certain number of points, doing a training part on one of the CTFs that I'm going to show you. Those are all things that could go in the Hall of Fame that you put in your classroom. What achievements of your students are you most proud of? Those can go in the Hall of Fame. So there it is. There is my, brilliant Hall of Fame right there on the left. And it would just be the student's name and their accomplishment. This is one of my mobile app classes where a student got on the Google Play Store. I put it up on the Hall of Fame. The students love to see their names up there. They love to come back and reflect on it down the road. It's been a really huge, big help, these Hall of Fames. And if you have a student that gets a cert, like if they get a CodeHS Cyber cert, go ahead and put that on the Hall of Fame. If they, and then every once in a while, you're going to have to kind of redo it, but that's okay too. And then you can have a sort of more rougher looking one, and it's so nice to just have that paper on the wall, and you go up there and add somebody's name to it. It's quite a moment. There's another picture. So I thought I'm going to keep on going, because we'll get some more questions down the road. And if you have questions about the Hall of Fame or how you would use that tool, you can let us know. All right, now we're going to look at this new CodeHS course called Fundamentals of Cybersecurity. It's a one-year-long course. It replaces the current Fundamentals of Cybersecurity course. Cyber is evolving. And you probably already figured out that there's not a ton of coding in cyber. There's a lot of other things, but it's very helpful for your students to have some coding background as they move forward in cyber. So I would want them to have some exposure to JavaScript or Java. But they're going to find as they move through this that there's a lot of sort of problem solving, solving puzzles, those kinds of skills are really important with cyber. So we got network fundamentals, software security, system administration, and cryptography, all in this fundamentals of cyber course. Now, SQL is kind of programming and it's kind of database work, because SQL is a language that was written to query a database. So if you think of a website, for example, the login screen of a website is essentially a window into the database that the website contains. User IDs and passwords are found in a database. So a SQL query is going to present that user login and password to that database. So fundamental of SQL hacking is essentially giving commands, SQL commands, to the database that's behind the login screen of the website, saying somehow figuring out a way to tell that database to give you back everybody whose name begins with A or something like that. So, you know, SQL is sort of programming, but sort of database stuff. And it's an important topic in cyber. And I'm glad that it's in this fundamentals of cybersecurity course. And it is aligned to a cert. CompTIA ITF+, which is pushed by Microsoft, is aligned with this course. And so this is a nice example of a cert that would go along with completing this course, where you would complete the CodeHS, the new CodeHS Fundamentals of Cybersecurity course, and your students would be equipped at that point to take and pass the CompTIA ITF+ certification. There are a lot of newer interactive activities like drop-down quizzes and labs. The more of these, the better, I find. And those are great examples of things that could go on the Hall of Fame. If you complete a lab, you can go up on the Hall of Fame. It's up to date. So cyber stuff does kind of get stale over time. This field's always changing. So the work that CodeHS and its curriculum developers have put into have something really fresh and current is very much appreciated. I mean, the first ever high school cybersecurity textbook was written it was first published 2 years ago, and it's already in a second edition. Expanded coverage, deepen your understanding with new material on advanced cryptography concepts, OSI model. If you want to talk about how packets move around the internet, and move from, say, what you're seeing on the screen to what somebody else is seeing on their screen. And this information has to move down through various layers of your computer, including the operating system, all the way down to the physical layer, which is literally ones and zeros moving across a wire. And then they have to go be put back together on the other end. So you quickly, you know, when you're talking about network traffic, you quickly move into a discussion of the OSI model. Risk management and vulnerability testing, all important. So here we are looking at some of the things that are covered in Unit 1 of the Fundamentals of Cybersecurity course. And some of this stuff, you really don't have any way around. You've got to cover this. You know, everyone needs to know the CIA triad. It doesn't stand for Central Intelligence Agency. And, you know, I would recommend that you come back to the CIA triad frequently as you move through your course and say, you know, what are we talking about? Availability here? Are we talking about data integrity? What are we talking about here? And then the course moves into cryptography, which I really like. And it starts early with the Caesar cipher and the Vigenère cipher, which is a polyalphabetic substitution cipher. Vigenère, you can have an awful lot of fun with. I would have students create their own table for Vigenère. Those of you who know what it is, I've had them they start by making the tables and then actually iteration, you know, whether you're talking about programming, whether you're talking about cyber, doing stuff again and again has its place. And it's good to not just push on to a new topic, but actually to get that practice and do something a few times to feel comfortable with it. Create an escape room. I've had a quick look at this. That looks like a very interesting project. And it would be another example where you could complete this project and it would be a good Hall of Fame thing to have. And then we get into system administration, which all of our cyber practitioners are going to want to have some idea of all the different configurations that you can do with a computer and a network, how to put in software patches, how to manage user accounts, and how to baseline a network or a system. Then we have some IT concepts like IP addresses, some sort of fundamentals of networking. What is a domain name system? How does that translate when you type in nytimes.com? That turns into a network address, and how does that all work? That's an important thing for a high school level student to have understanding about. Digital divide, censorship, and cultural influence, certainly important. Getting more into information warfare kind of stuff there. IT infrastructure, that second thing that's circled there, 6.2 computer disassembly, I think is a fantastic thing. And I think all of you teachers, I value this tremendously, because for most students, first of all, they're using laptops or tablets. They're not using they're not using desktop computers for the most part. So they don't really know what even the parts of a computer are. They don't really know what a NIC is. They don't understand what a chip is. And there's nothing like taking an old computer and just taking the thing apart and asking yourself, what are some of the things I'm seeing? What is a drive? What is secondary storage? What is the RAM? What the heck does that do? How does information move around inside the computer? So if you can get your hands on some old computers and construct an activity around taking those things apart, and they never have to get put back together if you get old junky computers, that probably some people would give to you. And just talk about the different cables and what they're seeing inside a computer. They will really enjoy it. My students always have. And I think this is a terrific thing to be included in this course. Then we get into SOHO devices and mobile device connectivity. All of our students have phones. We're trying to not have them be on their phones during our classes, but what I would really like to see happen is for the students to emerge from a cyber course with a really good understanding of what's at risk, how is their data available, where at what points does the information that they have on their phone travel across a network, and where can it be intercepted or discovered. So talking about mobile device and mobile device connectivity, what's an AP? That's a really important topic. And so I'm glad that CodeHS put it in here. And then we have a project where our students are being an IT professional, showing the many hats that IT people tend to wear. And I like this idea of this project being in here. And data security, getting into some SQL stuff and cross-site scripting, which I think the students will like. When they're doing SQL activities, they start to think of themselves as hackers and get an idea of how bad actors can access important data. Overflow, an important topic. Reconnaissance, all the stuff that you can do without ever hacking anything. Super important for an audit, a cyber audit, and pen testing. And then the scheme of risk project looks really interesting to me. Does anybody have questions here about the fundamentals of cybersecurity course? Robin, I think I'm going to dive forward now.
Oh, looks like a couple people have questions. Go ahead and type your questions into the chat for us.
Okay.
We'll make sure typing, please hold.
Yeah. So Robin, you can ask them to me because I'm not looking at the chat right now.
No problem.
Yeah,
So our course code for the CodeHS course. If you're talking about the fundamentals of cybersecurity course, we didn't create a section for you to hop in today, but you for sure can add it, add the course to your account. I will put the link in again. There you go. So that is the link that takes you to all of the information, the syllabus, everything about the fundamentals of cybersecurity course. And then you could go ahead and click on that and add it to your courses if you would like. I can't cover everything for what we have planned in our new course. What top 3 or 4 chapters are musts in your opinion?
Sure. Great question. So I would really try to do, I would try to do some cryptography. That would be one. I would try to introduce them to Linux. And I would try to do some networking. Those would be the three. If somebody really wanted to nail down three most important things.
How do I enroll as a student for the cybersecurity section I created? Or is this not included? You actually don't have to enroll as a student in it. I mean, you can.
I actually recommend doing that.
Yeah, but if not, you can just switch, you can switch from teacher view to student view and you can complete it as a student that way. But I will send you some information on how to do that.
Mm-hmm. You can just go to where you go to add a student, and there will be a URL there when you see add a student, and you just take that URL and paste it into a browser window, and it'll enroll you as a student then.
You can do that too. Yep. Awesome. And then Amy, it says Linux coding question mark.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that because it's somewhat similar to talking about SQL. Linux isn't really a computer programming language. It's an operating system. It's an operating system that is not one that your students are going to be familiar with. And it's very useful for machines that are old and slow, or Internet of Things devices. Like there's a type of Raspberry Pi that's about the size of a stick of chewing gum, or the chip that's in your doorbell. And these are very big focuses of cyber people now. And Linux is what runs those things. And if you become familiar with Linux, you're going to be a great help to companies that wish to secure all kinds of devices, the fridge computers and the things that are in cars. So Linux is tremendously helpful as an operating system. And there are Linux commands that invoke powerful tools in the Linux operating system that do things. For example, SSH actually lets you travel across a network and run another Linux system remotely. So if you get good at SSH and you have network access, you could actually run another system from your system. So just as one example of how Linux is helpful, but I would say the basic description of Linux is more of an operating system than a programming language. So you'll be learning commands that do things, but you won't be writing Linux code the way you would write Java code or the way you'd write JavaScript code. You would just be learning your way around the operating system. Super important though. Does that answer the question, Robin, to your satisfaction?
Yes, that was really good. Peter also asks, if Linux is so important, why not in CodeHS? Oh, interesting. Where to even begin to learn and use during class, how to have students do Linux lessons.
Great question. Fantastic question. I think I've got an answer and it's coming up.
Awesome. Stay tuned, Peter.
Yes, hang in there, Peter. I completely validate your thought that Linux is important, and we have to find, as cyber teachers, ways to get our students started and to continue with Linux, because it's not typically a graphic user interface system, and we've got to teach them, and we're going to find some ways. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So Robin, let me move forward so we can get to these CTF things.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, here we go. We've come to the first major tool that I use, which is in addition to CodeHS, in addition to this great thing. And I note that these new courses have included some CTFs in them. And I'm really excited to see that CodeHS is adopting that. What does CTF stand for? CTF stands for capture the flag. What does that mean? Well, there's a string, a series of characters that is set into another question, or that is somewhere for a student to find. And if you copy and paste that flag into an answer box on a CTF, you will get points. Well, students like doing things where you get points. They like piling up lots of points. And there are two tremendous platforms, one called CTF Learn and another called Pico CTF. And we're going to talk a little bit about those now in the next 20 minutes. And in some of those CTFs, you will find quite a bit more Linux instruction and help with getting familiar with Linux. So I would take a minute or two for everybody to just hop on. I'm gonna teach you guys with some screenshots, but I think this would be a good time for you to hop on ctflearn.com, create an account for yourself, and then you can move around the site as I talk a little bit about it. So Robin, I want them to take 2 minutes and go hop on ctflearn.com and create an account.
All right, sounds good. I did put the link in the chat so everybody can click on it.
And so I'll just wait a minute here and then I'm going to dive forward. And it is an ongoing question, exactly how do we salt Linux into our courses so that we get our students more comfortable with working in Linux, so that when they're talking to a company like Lockheed Martin and Lockheed Martin hands them a BeagleBone Black, as they did to some of my students, and says, go do something with this, the ones who are comfortable with Linux can do it. I had a student had that exact, the first day of a bunch of interns at Lockheed Martin, they passed out BeagleBone Blacks and said, do this and that with the BeagleBone Black. And my student was comfortable enough with Linux that she was able to do a couple things, and they put her on the red team. So like, that was a good thing. All right, shall I go forward, Robin? I think we've given everybody enough time to create an account on CTF Learn.
Yeah, we should be good.
Here's a home screen of CTF Learn, and you will see across the top, Learn, Challenges, Scoreboard, and Dashboard. And man, do kids love going on here and getting some points. So they're not going to instantly go to the part that says Learn, but I will tell you that there are some great labs there for them to get more comfortable with things like SQL. And I would highly recommend you to look at that and try to find some ways to incorporate some of those learning things into your classes. And then we go to the challenges section. And I will tell you that you will all want, your students will think that they're cool enough to try the medium and hard levels, and you need to be very firm with them and say, I only want you trying the ones on the easy level to start with. There's plenty of difficulty there on the easy level. And you see this live global dashboard, which is everybody who's logged into the site worldwide is piling up points on you. It's nice for you as a teacher to see your students complete a challenge and watch them go up this board. So let's go to the next slide here. So this is an example of a challenge. And this is one challenge called base 2 to the 6th, which is about base 64 encryption, which is an encryption system. And it basically, what you're going to try to do is take that thing after the exclamation point and decrypt it using a base 64 decryptor. So what's great about this question is it's going to make you go find a tool, a base 64 decryption tool, and use that to decrypt this. And when you find something that looks like what's in that flag box, you would just copy it and paste it into that box, and you would get credit for it. Okay, but this still seems like a lot. And how am I as a teacher going to teach this stuff? You're going to tell your students, guess what? There are write-ups and videos for every one of these exercises, especially the ones in the easy category, that they can find online. And so they will actually learn how to learn to do these CTF Learn problems by looking at videos and looking at write-ups. So in the case of base 2 to the 6, they would do something like Google base 2 to the 6 CTF Learn, and they'll come up with, let's go, I'm going to come back to this slide. So here's a write-up on base 2 to the 6. So somebody wrote this up and said that they were able to figure out that it was a base 64 system. And they used an online decoder called base64decode.org. And they were able to do that. And I've got a screenshot here of base64decode.com. Now, if you really ambitious as a teacher, you might want to look at some of these tools or look at some of these write-ups before you introduce the questions to your class, or have the class do a fairly limited set of questions together. And if you have some familiarity with some of these tools, that might help you. And you would simply paste in the text here where it says text to convert, hit decode, and then it gives, and you hit this convert button and it gives you a result. But you, on each of these questions, you want your students to try to learn at the very least something about these tools. And even more than that, maybe something about what base 64 encoding is all about. And so usually a lot of blurbs on these tools about what exactly the tool is doing. So like me, you'll probably be a little apprehensive. Well, what are my students just going to race to get the answer and not really understand the question or understand what they have had to do to get to that answer? That's a danger. But what you're imparting to them is a sense that they can learn some things, have fun, get some points, and get a feel for this field of cybersecurity. And I think that the benefit far outweighs this risk that somehow students are just racing to find an answer by Googling up these tools. So let me see if I can go back. Maybe I can. Yes, I can. All right, we talked about that. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of these tools. Most of these are software tools, although Raspberry Pi and BeagleBone Black are actual devices. Kali Linux you're going to hear about, and this goes again to the question that Peter asked about how to learn Linux. Well, Kali is actually an entire Linux system that is a collection of cyber tools on it. So if you have a Raspberry Pi or an old computer and you install Kali Linux on that computer, you're really doing your students a huge favor, or they're doing themselves a huge favor, because they have included in that operating system a huge suite of software tools that do all kinds of crazy things. It's like a Swiss Army knife of cyber. And I would encourage you to check out Kali Linux as a version of Linux and see if you can get it installed on a couple of computers in your classroom. And what you're going to find, or a couple of computers that students have access to somehow, what you're going to find, and you can install Kali Linux, by the way, on a Raspberry Pi. It'll run on a Raspberry Pi. There's a flavor for that. Once they have Kali Linux going, then they're hunting through these tools all the time, seeing if there's a tool on there that will work for the particular problem that they're working on. So that's kind of the tool of tools, Kali Linux. Now, other packet sniffers, which are software tools that tell you packets that are flowing past the NIC of the computer that you're on. One of them is called Wireshark. There are other ones, and those are an entire world of network auditing that are very helpful and complicated and take a while to learn. Nmap is a system of, is a tool for looking at different devices that are attached to a network. And then we have, in addition to this base 64 tool that I pointed out just now, there are other online decryption tools that will do all kinds of different encoding encryptions, and they will teach you some things too. Having an access point or a router around and learning the configuration tools for that will definitely teach you something about networking, and that's a good thing to be messing with. So let me go forward now. Get some old junk computers. I covered that already, so I'm going to go forward here. All right, now we're in one of the on the Learn tab of CTF Learn, if you guys are enrolled, and you will see this SQL injection. I think this is a fantastic lab. There's six levels to this lab, and I think this is a really good way to learn about SQL hacking and to get some basics of SQL, to see how you would enter what is essentially a command on a website login and get some useful information out of that. So this is the Learn tab on CTF Learn, and it's actually pretty darn useful. So I would encourage you, let me reiterate how I have used CTF Learn in the classroom. And I've definitely had periods of time in my class where I'm like, we're doing CTF Learn. You need to be on the easy level. We're doing cryptography now, and go get them, go get some points. And then you hopefully will have them in groups of 2 or 3, maybe working together on some of these. And, when you get to actual competitions, there'll be teams of 2 or 3. So they're learning how to work together to solve some of these problems, including talking about the problem, figuring out what tools they're going to use, and getting through it all. So getting flags in a CTF format, I think, is a tremendous way to get your students more engaged, get them feeling like they're making progress. They come home from school and they've learned how to use a new tool to decrypt something. They feel pretty good and they're excited about what they can do. Let's go forward. Doing further Googling and asking about the type of thing you're doing. What the heck is base 64? What's it used for? That can be a very helpful thing for a lot of students. Some students really want that extra content. They want to know. They're not just all racing to get the answer. I'm telling you, you've got plenty of students who are looking to really get complete mastery. And I would not overlook YouTube and YouTube videos for CTF Learn problems on either one of these 2 platforms that I'm showing you today, CTF Learn and also Pico CTF. There's some excellent videos that people have taken a lot of care to make. They're not long, and they will walk you through step by step how to solve the easy level CTF Learn problems, and your students will learn by following these videos. So do not exclude YouTube when your students are looking for ways to get through some of these CTF Learn problems. Here's a video on this problem that I just introduced to you, base 2 to the 6, produced by Almond Force. Not a lot of views here. I happen to think it was a pretty good video that the guy made. Bravo to him for making the video. It's 1 minute and 43 seconds.
Joe,
Yes.
really quick, we have a question in the Q&A.
Sure.
He asked if can you use activities on the CTF website for 9th graders?
Absolutely. They will like it. 9th graders will be fine with CTF Learn. Absolutely. I've had 8th graders use it. Keep them on the easy level. For some reason, students, they just, I think it's because they are trying to get a lot of points, and they will kind of sometimes go to the medium or hard questions, and what they need to do is more easy questions rather than go, oh, I did 5 easy ones, I want to go to the hard ones now. They should spend time really thinking about the easy question. I certainly think, CodeHS high school grade content is very appropriate for 8th graders and up. And so I would certainly stick in 9th grade might be the best time to get somebody started on CTF Learn. Did that answer the question okay?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now I'm going to show, did Robin and do you guys think we had enough of a chance for people to look at CTF Learn? Because I want to show you yet another platform.
I think so. One person did say that it seemed like the site was running slow for them, but I think maybe after refreshing, it seems to be good. Somebody said lab launch is not working, so it could just be that maybe the site is doing something at the moment.
All right, I've had that exact experience, and that's one reason why I didn't go to a screen share and a live demo on that. More than every once in a while, you'll feel some slowness on CTF Learn. You definitely will feel that. So be patient with it, try it, but don't ignore it.
Nice. Thanks for letting everyone know. I think they were thinking something was wrong with their internet.
Nope. It's a pretty common experience. So then again, you also have that hazard in the classroom. Now you get yourself all cranked up to do all kinds of stuff live. What do you do when it's a little laggy on that site? Wow. So you're going to find some ways to have your students work on CTF Learn and be ready to go in different directions too. So here I go with another one, another site, Pico CTF. And this Pico CTF, I like it. It's not quite as attractive a site as CTF Learn, but I like it a lot. And it's I haven't had the same kinds of issues with the site being a little slow that I have had with CTF Learn. So Carnegie Mellon also developed this as a way of getting people involved in cybersecurity. And again, both of these, CTF Learn and Pico CTF, should not be, they are not competing with CodeHS. They're not providing anywhere near the content level that CodeHS provides. They are a supplement, they're an extension, they're ways for students to get cranked up about CTFs. And CTFs are a really good thing, good ways to learn and develop your confidence in cyber. So I would ask your guys, once again, as I did with CTF Learn, to take this moment, take a minute or two here. I know we're at 1:25 p.m. Let's go log in on Pico CTF and go ahead and create an account. It's legit. Go ahead and do that, and then we'll talk about. I'll show you some screenshots and make a few suggestions. So let's take 1 minute, Robin, and give them a minute to create an account on picoctf.org.
That sounds good. And just as a reminder, you all do have access to the slides for this presentation, and I can put the link to the slides in again if you would like to save them. The other thing that I usually do when I'm watching or I'm a participant in webinars and links are being put in the chat is I click on the link and then I bookmark that link so I can look at it again later. So those are a couple of options, but you will also get a video recording sent to you of this webinar sometime this week. Please share the slides. Awesome. Yes, I will put the link in again for you.
I would have also one other response to the guy who asked the question about should a ninth grader be doing these CTFs, in addition to saying absolutely, definitely they should. I think there should be a cybersecurity club in your school. So consider talking to your students who are most interested in cyber and say, you need to start a club, and what can you do in that club? You can have meetings, you can plan to go to or attend competitions, virtual competitions. You can work on these CTFs together in that club forum where things are a little easier going and it's not a class for grades. I think a cyber club would be a great thing for you to encourage at your school in your copious free time that you all have. All right, so Robin, shall I start on Pico now?
Sure.
All right, let's take a quick look at Pico CTF. Let's go forward here. So a little bit different interface than CTF Learn. I like it, and I have a few things I would talk about. They also have they have a primer on here, which is helpful. It's just basically an online book, which can help with some of the jargon. Again, with this, I would stay with the easy level, and I would go to some of the older competitions that they've had there. If you scroll down the site, the homepage of the site, they'll say old competitions, and you'd see something like Pico CTF 2021 or something like that, and just leave it on easy. And also you can choose the category. So for example, if you're starting on cryptography, you could do a couple of cryptography questions. I really like these two platforms, and they also do have a way of tracking your points as you run them up. So I would definitely take a good look at both CTF Learn and Pico CTF and ask yourself if this is something that you can use, 20, 25 minutes, have a students do a couple of questions on Pico CTF in groups. Fantastic way for them to move forward. This is the primer that's in Pico CTF. So it's essentially an online textbook. I really like their section 2 called the shell, which gets into the question that was asked about Linux and what is that thing all about. There's specific details of hacking, including JavaScript hacking and cross-site scripting that I really like. I like their cryptography section. Their section 6 is really good. So this is a very nice website that you will find useful in your high school classroom. I'm certain of it. I think, Robin, I've kind of done what I wanted to do here today. I really wanted to get far enough through this that in addition to talking about the great CodeHS courses, I introduced our audience to both CTF Learn and Pico CTF. I talked about some of the ways in which I use these things in my classroom and some of the particular things that I do. They're just tremendous opportunities for you guys. You are going to make a difference in these kids' lives by exposing them to cyber, by spending 2 weeks with them, pushing cyber on them. It doesn't have to be 4 years. Just get them so they have an idea what cyber is, get them going on some particular aspect of it, get them on these platforms, get them working on CodeHS. You will have done them a tremendous favor. So I think, let me go back a little bit here. I think this would be a good time to open it up, Robin, if that's okay with you. And we could do some questions, or we can wrap it up. It's up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do some questions. And I wanted to say that Kim Hansen just added another resource in the chat. And she said this is another competition. It's National Cyber League
Yeah,
org.
fantastic.
And then if anyone else has any resources they want to share, any questions you want to ask about how Joe incorporates the use of these two sites in his classroom. I would love to see CodeHS platform more and really how to use it on a day-to-day basis. So Amy, we do have some back to school webinars that are going to be coming out, and they start at the beginning of September. And you'll want to take a look at that. And I'll put the link in the chat too before we go. I have a couple more things to go over, but we do have like the Getting Started with CodeHS webinar, which strictly goes over how to use CodeHS in your classroom, how to access the curriculum and any of the teacher tools. So I can definitely put the link in the chat.
I have a quick comment on that, which is that this is not just a stock. CodeHS is not a stock, one size fits all. You're gonna, as a teacher, gonna find ways to make it fit your teaching style, and you use the parts and pieces of CodeHS that you like to get what you want done. You certainly are free to just follow the platform and have students make their way through lesson by lesson, but you can also do an awful lot of modifying and customizing.
Thank you. And also, while we're waiting to see if we have any questions, I did put a link to our webinar survey in there, into the chat. If you could take just 3 minutes or so to fill that out for us. Let us know how we did today, what you liked about the presentation, anything else that you would like to see. We would greatly appreciate that. We do go over your feedback. And then we also have, Leanne did put a link in to our free PD that we offer. So Joe, if you could move ahead in the slides. These are just some other ways to stay connected with other educators in CodeHS. So you can become a CodeHS certified educator. You can take micro credentials to prove your knowledge of various programming languages. If you happen to be on Facebook, we do have a pretty active Facebook group for educators, and you can get a lot of resources and tips from other educators who use CodeHS in their classroom. And then we are also on other social media as well. And then if you could move one more. That's the webinar survey. I already did put that into the chat. And then I am going to put into the chat one more time because I said, I know that some of you had to sign up for a free teacher account today on CodeHS, and maybe you weren't able to click on the attendance link. So I went ahead and I just popped the attendance link in there for you if you happen to miss that at the beginning. And then we do have a question from Peter. He asks, do you spend any time on JavaScript?
Yes, I mean, I certainly think JavaScript is a great language for teaching, and it's important for understanding how websites add interactivity to them. I typically I'm seeing my cyber students are sort of at the upper level there. They've already done a year of JavaScript and they've done a year of Java. So we're not spending a ton of time teaching JavaScript, but we will discuss specific JavaScript hacking. And so the answer, I guess, for Peter is yes. That's a good topic to cover. JavaScript hacking is a good topic to cover.
Nice. If you could move forward one more slide. Thank you. So I'm going to drop the link in again for some more free PD that we have coming up. And we have getting started teaching CS in middle school, which is tomorrow. We have our course launch for our new game development in Unity course. So the curriculum developer is going to be talking to you about that course. And then we also have collaborating with AI. So if you're looking to find ways to use AI in your classroom, that would be a good one to attend. And then next week on Tuesday, we have a CodeHS teacher trainer who teaches game development in Unity, and she is going to be talking about how she does that in her classroom with our course. So if you're interested in registering for any of those, that link is also in the chat for you. And then last but not least, if you are interested in bringing CodeHS to your school or district, maybe looking into getting a pro account instead of the free version, you can go ahead and go to codehs.com/learn more.
Yep, and I would strongly recommend that you take a look at the silver site licenses too. If we're talking about different options you have with CodeHS, I think the CodeHS guys could do a little more to push those, because the silver site license really gives you a tremendous amount of freedom, and you will end up with a whole lot more students on the platform if you have the ability to create unlimited sections.
Yeah, someone's asking about their certificate. Yep, you will get a certificate in the mail for or in the email, I should say, for attending. You'll also get the recording. I think we'll just wait another minute or so to see if anybody else has any questions for Joe while he is here with us.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's telling you thank you in the chat.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed doing this, so I'm grateful.
Yeah, this was a lot of great information for sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. If you don't have questions, we will see you again next time. If you do have any questions, stick around and put your questions in the chat. You're very welcome. It was a wealth of information. Yes, it was very good information for you and your students.
Well, there's tremendous opportunity out there for students that get themselves going in cyber, for sure. So you're doing a tremendous favor to your students by getting them going.
Absolutely. Joe and I were actually talking the other day, and one of my friends, her son just graduated with a degree in cybersecurity and went right into a job, making quite a bit of money. So yeah, it is very lucrative and very in demand right now.
It's a reflection of the tremendous need that's out there for people to secure
For sure.
all this stuff we've pushed online.
All right, well, I don't see any questions. Joe, thank you so much for
Sure.
spending this time with us and helping all of our educators. And I know that they are going to use much of what you went over, and it's really going to help their students. So thank you
Okay.
so much.
Good luck in the new year. See you all soon.
All right, bye everyone. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.